I'll always try to cloud record the nights where we're all having debates together, but for those of you who end up getting called to debate tonight, my recommendation for debaters, and I'll give you permission to do this, is still to go ahead and record a local copy of your debate. You'll always have to do an evaluation, and like why you can wait for me to upload it on my end when you're doing that. Sometimes it's nice just to have your own copy to look back on. But really, the only ones that you'll have to record are the ones when we split off into different groups. But anyways, I want to welcome everybody to week number 6. We're officially 1/3 of the way through the semester, and tonight marks the night and where we start getting started actually having in-class debates. Honestly, this is kind of my favorite part of the semester. Like the first third of the class is about kind of teaching you guys the basics of it, but really it starts making a lot more sense to everyone once we have an opportunity to just kind of dive in, do it, and get some feedback. And so that's really what the next few weeks are going to be about, as we have a chance to rotate through and get everybody an opportunity to go ahead and have debates. I am going to go ahead and share that main link in the chat for folks. My recommendation is to always have the quick links up on the nights where we debate. Let's see if I can talk and do this at the same time. /107. And so keep in mind, there's going to be a couple of forms that are important on the quick links. In addition to having the cheat sheets for the AF and the negative, there's also the ballot. So if you get called to be a judge tonight, you'll be filling one of those out, as well as the group discussion forms. Just to kind of remind folks a little bit about how the logistics on these debate dates are going to work. If you haven't already done it, go ahead and take a moment just to rename yourself so that your name is your first and last name, and then you've got your group name after that. That makes it a lot faster for me to sort you all into your groups once we start the first round of debates, so that I can send everybody off in their break-off rooms. The general flow of how it's going to work is, in a second, I'm going to release our first pairing, and I'll show you all who our debaters are and who the judges are, and then the debaters will take turns striking topics. Once they have gotten down to the last one, we'll go ahead and start prep time. I'll send you off with your groups to have a conversation about the topic, where you kind of talk about what you think the potential advantages versus disadvantages are. Fill out that group discussion form. And while you are doing that, I'm going to spend about 8 minutes with each of the debaters, kind of checking in on them and making sure that they're ready for their round. I'll then give everybody a 1-minute warning. We'll come back together and we will have the first debate. And when that debate is over, we will then repeat that process for a second debate as we work our way through. Keep in mind that's important both when you're debating, judging, or just watching to be flowing the debate. The assignment you will have due by midnight tonight, which I'll open up momentarily, is to turn in those flows. Before we get going with all of that, are there any questions that I can answer for folks? Nada? All right, I see a couple of folks that still have not renamed themselves. Let's see. So Maria, you need to rename still. Peyton, you need to rename. And then I think Michelle, oh no, Michelle, you got you there. Just no parentheses. I can make that work. So if you all can rename yourselves, that would be appreciative. So just Peyton and Maria that we're waiting on. While you all are doing that, I'm going to plug in a couple of judges for our first round, and then we will get started. Let's see. I got 3 judges. The first debate. Go ahead and plug their names in there. All righty. Looking good. Peyton, are you able to rename yourself? Oh, there it goes. Got it. And then I think we are all set. All right, folks, let's go ahead and do a quick issue of the day, and then we will start our round. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll. I'm drinking too much caffeine today, so you can guess where this one came for. What is your favorite way to get caffeinated? Coffee, tea, energy drinks, soda? There's got to be at least one person here that claims not to do caffeine. My wife somehow made it all the way through, like all undergrad and all college, without drinking caffeine until her very last semester when she met me. And now she drinks like a gallon of this stuff a day. All right, and our results are in. It seems like the winner is coffee, with tea being a close shortcut, kind of split. I guess tea, energy drinks, and soda are all tied. We got one person who claims not to do caffeine, so props to you for being able to avoid it. All right, so I'll go ahead and move us into our first debate. And so I just kind of randomly paired stuff for tonight, but in our first debate on the affirmative is going to be Raquel, and then on the negative is going to be Amanda, and our first three judges are going to be Rebecca, Danelle, and Kayla Lane. So judges, remember that you're going to want to open up the ballot form on the quick links, which I shared on the chat. And for everyone else, the cheat sheets are on there. Raquel and Amanda, are you all ready to strike some topics?
Yes.
All right. So I will put it up on the screen. Amanda, since you were on the negative, you're going to get to strike first, and then we'll go to Raquel, and we'll go back and forth until there's only one left. All right, so these are the topics for the first round. Go ahead and take a look at them, and when you are ready, tell me which number you would like me to cross off.
Number 1.
All right, number 1 is gone. All right, Raquel, you're up.
Number 2.
Number 2 is gone. All right, back to Amanda.
Number 5.
Crossing off number 5, and then you get to make the decision.
Cross out number 3.
All right, crossing off number 3, which means the topic of debate here is going to be the United States should require police officers to wear body cameras. All right, I will send that out in the chat. Let me just bounce back for 1 second. Raquel F, Amanda negative. I'm going to put everybody in their rooms, and as soon as I click the start button to get time going, then the countdown will begin. So give me 1 second to put everyone in their rooms. Obviously, you guys can start prepping if you like. This takes me 1 second to filter all the names. All right, always right. Always right, always right. Looks like we just lost somebody. Change our minds, change our minds. All right. We got the debatables. Then just a couple that I missed. And we're back. We're back. And always right. All right, folks, prep time officially begins. I'll send you all into your rooms, and I'll send everybody a 1 minute warning when you've got 1 minute to finish up the form on the quick links. Good luck, and debaters, I'll be in to help you all in your prep rooms in about 1 minute. Vanessa, I'm gonna assign you to your room real quick. So if you can hear me, hold on 1 second. You're about to get an invite. If it'll let me do that. There we go. Assign to. Oh, he's right. All right, that should let you in your room. All right, folks, we should be back out. So first off, I just have a couple reminders. As we work our way through the debates, everyone should be flowing the debate. This is obviously true if you're a debater, because that's how you respond to the arguments. But it's also true if you're an audience member, and it's obviously especially important if you are a judge, because the only way to fairly judge and evaluate the debate round is to go ahead and flow the debate as we work our way through it. So with that being said, let me just pull up times here. So Rebecca, Danelle, and Kayla, were you all able to access the ballot on the quick links page?
Yes, I was.
All right, I'm seeing other people nodding their heads. So you'll just kind of fill that out as we go. If you have questions after the debate, I'm happy to go ahead and answer those, but we will be kind of waiting for you guys to do that. Typically, we'll go through our first two debates, and then we'll give the results of all of them at the end. All right, then, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get our first debate going. I'm going to do a quick audio video check of our two debaters to make sure that we can hear them, and we'll start. Raquel, can you just make some noise so that we can make sure we can hear and see you?
Yeah, my kid's at the door, so if you hear screaming, it's my kid. I'm sorry.
You will make two. All right. And Amanda, are you good to go?
Yeah, I also have kids back here too, so you might.
Hey, what are you gonna do? All right, cool deal. We will make.
We should put the kids against the
whole
kids.
Beauty of online debates. All right, everyone else, if you don't mind, go ahead and keep yourself self-muted so we don't mess with the debaters, and I will mute myself in between speeches as we work our way through. All right, without further ado, we turn the floor over to the affirmative to deliver the first affirmative constructive speech. This one should not be longer than 4 minutes, and we are ready when you are.
Oh, I had one question.
Yes.
Is my background going with my advantage one, or are they two different things?
So you should start with resolutional analysis, background, plan, then your advantage.
Okay, let me get my timer real quick. Sorry.
Quick question, real too. At the end of this, are we going to go back into our group sessions to fill out the group form that we're supposed to do?
You'll do that for the second debate, but the first one should have already been done.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Okay. Got you.
No worries.
So resolution analysis, background, advantage one, right?
You got it.
Okay, ready. Okay, sorry. All right.
You're good.
Okay, so as far as my resolution analysis, the resolution is that the U.S. should require police officers to wear body cameras. We're gonna set the weighting mechanism tonight as net benefits. So if you guys find my my advantage better and more sound than the negative, you'll vote for me. So a little background about what I have to say is the body cameras in general will help share the real side of a story instead of there being two sides of the story, because which there's a lot right now. People can do it's like I think called a grievance or towards the police, if they feel like they were wrongly subjected to wrongdoing, like excessive force and stuff. So that's a problem right now, and the same thing goes for the police. They actually might be the victims, and you're hearing two stories right now, and that's a little bit about the background. So the plan would be to have everyone wear police wear body cameras, so they're to hold everyone accountable. As for my solvency, it would, for the cameras, we might be able to do it where we could cut on maybe even police salaries right now, or taxes. It could be a combination, because it's not just the people of the country's fault. It's what goes on in police, where is it, police departments too, that even has to come to this point where there's that mistrust. So I felt like it should come out of taxpayer dollars and the police dollars. Okay, and for my advantage one, Okay, so for my uniqueness, those are flowing. So like right now, again, negative interactions or subadvantage one is called public safety. So unique for the uniqueness, the negative interactions are occurring, such as again, like just like police brutality and like there's just like a lot of harm and fear like that has occurred for the community to talk to the police or to like feel victimized. My link right now is going to be Congress should pass a law which require police officers to wear body cameras while on duty. My internal link is going to be that this plan is going to like work because there's a problem and the body cameras would be a good start to fixing that problem. Some statistics I have to provide are that on policeone.com, they shared the results of the Rio Alto police force, which was where body cameras like originated and started. 3 years prior to the experiment, PD posted roughly 65 use of force incidents per year. So that's like 65 people complained about use of force. During the experiment period, the UOF, which is use of force, dropped significantly to 25 incidents total. That's 58% to 68% compared to the previous year. So that's like significant findings right there. My impact would be like, lesser crime and conflict on both sides, like less, interaction from the police doing wrong, and there'd be like, you would hold both parties accountable, like there'd be less crime going on, especially like crimes add when it's being apprehended in the first place, like there's more crime added, like, it goes from just being, oh, you're getting a ticket for this to you're getting a ticket for like harassing the police too. And then, it just be, the community might be less reluctant for asking for help due to all the negative stigma that comes from, interacting with the police in general. So that would help too. And I think that can wrap that up. Close the time.
All right, nice job. All right, we're gonna go ahead and open things up to cross-examination. So Amanda, you have 1 minute to ask questions before your next speech starts.
Hi, Raquel. Do you know how much you would have to cut the police salaries or how much you would have to add to taxes? Is there like a number? Like how much less would the police get paid?
There's not a number, but like I said, it would like whatever the initial dividend of adding more body cameras to the whole program would be, like it would probably be like a rough maybe like it'd probably be a little less on the police side, but like still a significant amount, so not all coming from the taxpayer dollars.
Yes. Okay. Do you know anything about like how many police or people are for this?
I didn't look into that finding.
Okay. I think that's all the questions I have.
All right, fantastic. Then we'll turn the floor over to the negative team now. The first negative constructive is a speech that should not be longer than 5 minutes, but feel free to offer an off-time roadmap before you get started. So you can kind of tell us.
I'm going to start with my first disadvantage, then second disadvantage, and then what do I call the rest?
So she had her top of case. And
okay, then I'll do the I'll do the topic case and then the first advantage and then her advantage.
Great. And just let us kind of know when you're switching between those things so we can change our flows out. All right, ready when you are.
Okay, I'm gonna set my timer. Okay, I'm ready. Okay, so thanks everybody for watching. My first disadvantage is that to put body cameras on every single police officer is extremely expensive. If we did just the Bakersfield Police Department, there's 200 police officers there. It's going to cost $440,000 in the first year, and then $220,000 every year after that. I don't know how many people that are police officers, but if you ask them if they want to take a pay cut to pay for body cameras, I don't think they would be for that. And then if you look at why.org, Philadelphia, to do the whole town of Philadelphia is going to cost $12.5 million in the first year. So that was my uniqueness. And then my link is that they are going to have less money for body armor, not only their salary, but for guns. I mean, they're not going to be able to even protect themselves. They're going to be walking around paying for the stuff on their body, but then no protection, it's just going to make them more upset. My internal link is that there will be less police officers. If you're not going to pay them as much, those people that are good quality, they're going to go do something else. So we're going to have less cops, probably more crime, and the people that we do out there are going to be less qualified. So some of the better people that could choose that profession won't be there. And so my impacts is that there's going to be more crime and a lot of underpaid cops, which will probably make them more upset than causing even more police brutality or a lot of some of the stuff that she said for her impact. So, and my disadvantage too is that it decreases safety and decreases security that the people feel. So a lot of times, like, cops can go around the neighborhood and they can talk to people they know. They can say, hey, have you seen anything over here? You know, a lot of people are cool with the cops in certain neighborhoods, but now you're putting them on camera. Do you think they're going to want to go tell the cop, oh yeah, I heard something about this dude over here, or we saw some stuff over here? They know they're on camera, so now they're going to be a snitch all the time. There's none of that more connection, you know. They're going to feel like they're being watched. According to European Journal of Criminology, assaults on police officers actually go up 14% when they are wearing cameras. So people feel more untrusting and more brutal towards the cops when they know that they're on camera. And Stephen E. Henderson is a psychologist at the Oklahoma of Law. He says that it actually hurts a police officer mentally. So to know that you're sitting there being recorded all of the time is really detrimental on your brain. Like, do you want to, even right here, sitting here being recorded is kind of strange to me. Imagine like all of the time, your whole shift, everything you do is just nitpicked, you know, to the T. So it's my link for that is that it's hurting them mentally more than necessary. They're already out there risking their lives. They're already doing all this stuff. My internal link is that it's going to mentally damage and underpay them. So it's going to hurt everything worse. And my impact is that it'll damage the openness with the police, and the cops are messed up in the head. So it just makes the streets less safe. And the police the people that are supposed to protect us won't trust us even as much. So for her top of case, the plan was that it'll help share the real side of what the police do. But according to the Center for Evidence Crime at George Mason University, they published something in the Criminology Public Policy Journal that cameras actually don't change cops' reactions, and that they shouldn't be expected to change a cop's whole behavior just because they're now on camera. Her solvency, I would say, isn't even good, because how are we going to cut salaries of the cops and taxes? I mean, like, you'd have to have people say, yeah, we want to pay more taxes for this. And $12.5 million in a year is ridiculous. That's Philadelphia. I don't know how it would be over here in California, but that's going to be a lot of money. As for her advantage on the uniqueness, I think that it's not good for public safety. Just like I stated, they say that officers have a 14% higher rate of getting assault with the camera, and that the people are no longer going to trust the cops. The people are already going to be scared to talk to them and feel more victimized. And I don't think that it's going to fix the problem. I think it's going to actually make things worse. And I think that's it. That's all I got.
All right. Thanks a bunch. Cool. Second period of cross-examination then. So this is for the affirmative to cross-examine the negative. 1 minute on the clock. Feel free to ask some questions.
Okay. For the, let's see, what did you say? Okay, so how you're saying like the body cameras are expensive and stuff, like for the Bakersfield thing, did it like the money that you're saying how it's going to be expensive, like are there any do you have any statistics about like how many people or like the crimes actually like what is it called, use of force crimes are actually happening to? Like, did you look up how many people are actually,
like how many people get assaulted?
Yeah.
You mean the cops or the people?
Like either.
So it says that the cops are 14% more likely to be assaulted when they're wearing the cameras, and then
Like in general, like how many people are being assaulted in general?
No. I don't know how many people right now are being assaulted, but I know that they do think at George Mason University that's not going to change their reaction. That
All right,
cameras aren't
that
really going to
is
change it.
the end of cross-examination. All right, we're now going to move into the first affirmative rebuttal. This is a speech that should not exceed 3 minutes, but you're welcome to kind of give us a roadmap of where you're going before you start your time.
I'm gonna just look at her disadvantage 1 and then her disadvantage 2 and then her 1 and C.
All right, disadvantage 1, disadvantage 2, and then through your stuff, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Ready when you are.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm ready. Okay, so for uniqueness, again, how like the body cameras are expensive, like neither of us like provide like how many like people are getting assaulted, but I think like a lot of people who like been victimized would like, you know, consider the money that's gonna take, like it takes money to do everything, and like the millions of dollars, like there's like a more than millions of people in this country, so like $1 per person doesn't, like it adds up. Like there's not just 100 of us in the country, there's a lot of us in the country, and there's a lot of cases of people who are, you know, mistreated during arrest and like, or for police too, like it helps both people. And as far as the less body armor and guns, I don't really feel like that's really gonna be like that much of a problem. Like it's not like you know, they need like a billion cameras. It's just like they need enough cameras for their unit, and like it's not like, even if we could like do it so like while they're on duty, like, you know, people switch duties, so like there's just like a lot of cost effective ways that can be implemented, like just how like it's a new thing, there could be like newer processes to make it more affordable too. Like it's just like something that's like, you know, like innovation will come with new things anytime. And she's like, less cops, more crime, less qualified, underpaid cops. You know, I think a little bit of everyone's a little unqualified, you know, when they first start off. That's why they have training academies for, you know, there's always going to be people who grow up wanting to be a cop, you know, just like it's a thing, like kids, and like a lot of them in high school, like long as there's high school programs are offering, you know, to like the cop, like they have like these little cop teaching experiences, like while you're in high school. I'm sure there's always going to be in, like a job for like people who wanting to seek that job out. For her disadvantage too, as far as the snitching, there's anonymous tips. Like people don't ever have to be in front of a cop to like report something if they don't want to. They can always call, and that's not gonna, like, it might be recorded, but you don't have to. It's good, and it's called an anonymous tip. So that's just like kind of like out. Like I feel like that's just like a turn on that, because again, like it doesn't have to be face to face. And then as far as in hurting police officers mentally, what about all the victims are mentally damaged, like cops and like people who, you know, are going through, like there's people who get raped, there's like a bunch of cases of people who got raped by cops, there's a bunch of cases of people who get beat down in jails. We've seen the stuff like when people are actually in jails, which is like a different thing, but like, you know, like people on the street get abused and like mistreated, and like they're just like, I feel like the cameras outweigh the money that's going to be put in as far as in who's mentally damaged here. And as far as in the 1 in C, I just feel like it's not going to make things as like the 14% higher rate of crime. Like that might just be like a beginning thing. Like I feel like through time it's like going to go down, because like there's like a rate of crime again, like it's so high that's not recorded, and I just feel like that there's gonna be more benefits towards it.
All right, thank you very much. Cool. We'll now turn the floor back over to the negative team. This is the negative rebuttal and summary speech. It is a 4-minute speech, but again, feel free to start us off with the roadmap, Amanda, before you dive into it.
Okay, I think I'm going to. This is my rebuttal and summary. So I'm just going to say back to what she said and then summarize everything. Correct?
Yeah, like you can still tell us if you're going to go to your disadvantages first. Or
Yeah, but that's what this is my last time to talk.
Correct.
So yeah, I'm going to go to disadvantage 1 and then 2, and then I will do probably like the top of case or advantage 1 and then top of case.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, let me start my timer too. 3 or 5 minutes, right?
4 minutes.
4, sorry. Okay. So she said that it's not too expensive because it'd be worth it to the people that are victims, which it is true. You know, people shouldn't be victims of the police, but the fact is that it's expensive for everybody, the taxpayers and the cops. It shouldn't be a problem just because we want to pay for that, but we don't have a good way to pay for that. And I don't think that just saying it's cost effective because of innovation is really a way to say how much money it's going to cost and where the money is going to come from. And if everybody's okay. I know that there's more than however many people, but it's not going to be, hey, everybody chip in $1 and then all the cops are going to have body cameras. It's not really how it works. It's going to be the city of Philadelphia trying to figure out how to pay 12.5 million in the first year. That's a lot of money. That's not everybody, put in $1. And then people are always going to want to be cops. I don't think so. I don't want to be a teacher anymore because I see the teachers on strike all the time. And I think cops, it's going to be around the same thing. We're going to underpay them. We're not going to have qualified people. And the people that want to grow up and be cops, maybe we don't have money for those, the training. They already get like 6 months of training. They get like 6 months and they give them a gun after a year. Like, I think it's already kind of low over there. So I don't think that's going to help anything. And the 14% assault worse on officers. I don't know if that's just in the beginning because it didn't say that. So I can't write that off and just say that cops are going to have 14% higher rate of assault with camera. I think that people are just going to be upset with the cops and feeling on edge and uneasy because they're on camera all the time. And even though there are anonymous tips, that's still going to take away the face-to-face relationships that cops do have with certain people in neighborhoods. Like, I've watched crime shows before and I've watched them walk around and some people come up and talk to them. And I don't think they're going to want to do that. They're not going to be as close with them. They're just going to feel like everything is under a microscope. And yeah, the victims are definitely mentally damaged. The cops are going to be too. Maybe we should have better cops. Maybe there should be better vetting. Instead of putting the money in body cameras, maybe it should be, more training and more mental help for the cops and stuff like that. I'm going to go back to the advantage. So I really don't think it helps public safety. I think it makes it worse for the cops. I think it makes it worse for the public. I think that people are going to feel more victimized. I don't think it's going to fix any of the problems. And she said that 58% to 68% less crime. It went down 10%. So when one of the cities was using the body cameras, I don't think that that's going to dramatically change anything. I think in the long run, it's going to hurt the cops more. It's going to be drain on everybody's taxes, and that is just not going to go well for anybody unless there's a way that we can figure out, how to pay them more and still do it at the same time. I don't think you can take into their salaries and expect for the people to play. And I don't think a camera should be expected to change a cop's behavior. A cop's either good or bad, like that camera is not going to change what they do. Maybe for that couple of hours, those cops are still going to be bad guys if they're going to really do something that bad. That's just in them. I don't think that's going to change. And that's it. I hope you vote for me.
All right, fantastic. And then we will turn the floor back over to our affirmative team for the final speech. This is the second affirmative rebuttal and summary. And this one should not be longer than 2 minutes, but feel free to start us off with an off-time roadmap before you dive into it.
I think I'm just gonna go back through just summarizing my points and then go back to disadvantage too.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, so overall, the community, again, for as far as impacts go, or the community will be less reluctant for asking for help again, because there's not gonna be a point where they're gonna feel oh, what I say to them isn't going to have any meaning or merit. It'll be recorded that that whatever they felt or could be played back, it can be played back wrong because it's it's live, as far as in misinterpretations of what someone said, like that could be like incriminalizing, you know, it wouldn't be, because, you know, like the proof's right there. I just feel like even if it like, as far as in there being like a bad or good side of like any person, you know, you can't really deny the proof if the proof's right there. As far as in her disadvantage too, going back to some of the points, like again, like how she said, like people are going to be victimized, or cameras shouldn't be expected to change people. Like, I'm not saying that it's going to change people, but like the proofs that in the camera, like the proofs in the footage, like, you know, if there's going to be a two-sided story to anything, there's it's not going to be that way, because it's recorded. And like it's eventually, if people aren't already accountable for themselves, all the backlash is going to make people like want to be accountable. Like, as far as in like barrels will get tighter, like things like, you know, like, oh, that's not okay. And like, as far as in like the community can like see, like I'm sure like the community can see, like won't be able to see like all the footage, because there's like, you know, so much as far as in like snitching goes, like there's like certain things to protect people. So I don't think like anything that would like someone would be like, oh, this person's snitching, and like saying something that would like harm the person, because I don't think the cops are going to want to send anyone into protective custody because of what they like release. But I again, I think the plan is doable. I feel like there's always like a source for income somewhere, and like.
All right. Nice job, both of you. Congratulations on surviving your first debate. And as I think I was talking to one of you about before, it does mean you get a break for the next few weeks while the rest of us go all the way through it. So since this is the first night of official debates, I think we're only going to end up doing one debate tonight, because I want to kind of give some feedback to y'all, but also feedback that everybody else can kind of hear and internalize. But before I do any of that, we need our judges to take a few minutes and go ahead and fill out their ballots. And so I'm monitoring it on my end, but if you were one of my 3 judges in this round, please take a couple of minutes to go ahead, fill out your ballot, and write some feedback. I will give some kind of general feedback for y'all. We were waiting for that to come in, but once I have the result, then I'll give some more pointed feedback and release the result, and that should take us through the end of class for tonight. Do keep in mind, in future weeks, it's going to be a little bit more impacted. For me to get through 2 rounds in a night, I basically have to do them kind of back to back, but we do have an odd number of folks in the class, so I think it's okay tonight if we just do one and let it sink in a little bit. So I am just going to put up my monitoring.
What is the round number that you'd like us to put on there?
This is round 1A. I'm just pulling up the thing on my end. All right, good. I am set to monitor. All right, I'm going to give a little bit of feedback why our judges are doing that. So all in all, I want to say that the 2 of you did a really nice job at getting through your first real debate. I know it can be a little bit stressful when you get thrown into it, and I thought you both brought in some really interesting good points and did a nice job at trying to keep things organized, which is a challenge for even experienced debaters. So a couple of pieces of advice while we're waiting on our judges. So I guess Raquel, I'll start with you. I think that you put your case together pretty good, but I think there's like a few structural things that you might be able to do to help us out. And this is going to be true for everybody during their first round. But as much as you can kind of signpost where we're at and try to like walk us through almost an outline format, what your argument is. One, it's going to be easier for you to kind of defend your arguments as we go through, but it's going to be easier for folks to flow it and put it together. So that just means that like when you're doing your top of case, be like, all right, so my first argument here is the resolutional analysis. I would ask that you all evaluate this round through the lens of net benefits. If I can prove that my plan makes the world better, vote for me. If I can't do that, or if my opponent proves I actually make things worse, then you vote for them. Great, let's move on to key terms. And like that kind of like constant signposting just makes it easier for us to for us to follow you. It's like the same thing when you get down to the background. My first argument here is this is the problem. This is why it's significant. This is why it's not getting better. And hence my plan. And so I know it seems like a little bit formulaic at this point, and it gets more natural over time, but doing that especially helps new folks that are just kind of figuring out how to flow, how to work their way through that. So something for you all to keep in mind. Same thing on your advantage. Like I heard all of the parts of it there, but just making sure that you're clearly like delineating what your uniqueness is, what the link, what the internal link and impacts are, especially for those of us that are brand new, just barely figuring this out. Having those things like in the initial speech makes it so much easier to flow as time gets on. That's it. I think you had some good arguments and good statistics. I liked that both of you brought in stats of places where this was working and where this wasn't working. I always personally, as a judge, find the examples of stuff like where stuff has been happened and tried to be the most compelling, to be the most convincing. And it's always interesting when you end up in a debate like this one where there's conflicting examples, right? You've got the affirmative saying like, look, this is where it works. And the negative saying like, look, this is where it didn't work, because it starts to like kind of like bring up those questions. And as our debates get more complicated, we start to get deeper into that through the clash and be like, well, why did we see different results in one city versus another city? And like trying to get into like some of those correlating factors can always be an interesting thing to kind of like look our way into as we dive more into these. All right, we'll keep giving some feedback while our judges are filling stuff out. So Amanda, I think you also do a nice job on this. Similar comments, like you had most of them there, but making sure that you signpost all 4 parts of each disadvantage is helpful as we're kind of figuring those arguments out. One of the things that I noted and left you a comment about, so I always advise folks when they're trying to conceptualize like what the link argument is and their advantages and disadvantages to try to keep that as simple as possible. And so for the affirmative, when you're writing an advantage, really all you want to do with the advantage is be like, look, stuff is messed up. And so the link here is that our plan passes. And then at your internal links is where you kind of explain why that fixes thing. The same thing is true for you on the negative in this one. You have a uniqueness scenario where you describe some things as stable and okay, but when you get to the link, all you really want to do is point the finger at the plan as being the thing that's going to make that a challenge. And so if we see that police officers are able to be, you know, reasonably well paid but not great in the status quo, reasonably like well funded in terms of equipment and stuff, like that's where we need that link argument. But then the plan passes, creates a huge unfunded mandate for these body cameras. And now all of a sudden police departments have to figure out how, like where in their budgets, these hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment funds are going to come from. If you keep that simple in the link, then it lets you make the argument in your internal link. Well, it's going to come from this. It's going to come from pay. It's going to come from equipment. It's going to come from overall hiring. And that allows you to get deeper into those impact scenarios. And so the advantage and disadvantage, I think, seems complicated to folks at first, but really they're relatively simple, like logical arguments, right? And really all of disadvantages is like, hey, something's working, you pass your plan, that thing stops working and causes bad things to take place. And so the easier you're kind of able to like walk us through that story, the easier it's going to be for you in your final speech to claim net detriments. And like that's the whole point of a disadvantage, is to try to convince us that certain things in the status quo would be worse off as a result of doing that at the end. I thought, Amanda, you did a pretty good job on your refutation. I meant to write it down when you switched over to it. I guess we've got it on camera. Typically, when there's like a time split like this, where you've got 4 minutes of speech that you're responding to, but you also have your own stuff, I think what typically makes the most sense for the negative is to try to spend a little bit more than half their time on their disadvantages. And I think you were pretty close on that. So like maybe like 3 minutes on your disadvantages. So about 1.5 minutes each if you're going to do 2 like you did, and then leave yourself a full 2 minutes to like actually do the refutation. So here's the thing. Most of the time in debates, especially once debaters have had a little bit of practice and they're able to get more experience at putting together affirmative cases, rarely does very much debate happen at the top of case. In my experience, especially once folks are a little bit more seasoned, the only real places that folks make arguments at the top of case is in response to the inherency, which is the final argument of the background, and then the solvency. And the reason for this is that the advantage is the more threatening argument structure to the negative team. Like the affirmative has to do the things on top of case, but they win their case with their advantage. The advantage is where they prove that the status quo would be better if they did their plan. So unless there's like a really obvious place to like be like, look, like they said that it's not getting better for this reason, but it is getting better, which would be a response to the inherency, or if they mess something up at the solvency level, most of the time it makes more sense to go to the advantage first and make direct refutation against the advantage until you run out of time. And I mean, like if you get all the way through the advantage and you've got 30 seconds left, sure, go ahead and put some like ink on the top of case. But the advantage is what the affirmative is going to try to use to beat you. And like even if you have really good disadvantages, if the impacts are severe or big enough of the advantage, like the affirmative can basically lose the DAs, but be like, but the advantages outweigh here, so you're still going to vote for me on the advantage, which is why you probably want to prioritize time there as well. That does mean, Raquel, for you, it provides an interesting opportunity when somebody like kind of spends, like when the negative spends more time on their off case arguments and less time on your advantages. It probably means strategically it's going to make more sense for you to start with your case, quickly defend case, extend your stuff across and be like, cool, so I'm solving for my impacts here. Now let's use whatever time is left to talk about the disadvantage. Like that's the one, like the affirmative gets the benefit of defining the round, knowing exactly what the plan is when the negative doesn't, and you get to speak first, in the middle, and last. So you get a bunch of it like benefits, but the one thing that's really tough for the affirmative in this format of debate is that first affirmative rebuttal, you've got 3 minutes to respond to 5 minutes of stuff. And so you kind of have to, when you're on the affirmative, you kind of have to like be really strategic about how you spend that time. And if that means that you can quickly defend your case and then move on to the disadvantages, that you're going to be able to have that refutation without having a chance of losing your case. But anyway, so that's just something to kind of like factor in. There's not necessarily a right way or a wrong way to decide when to go off case or on case first, but they are things that can pop up. All right, I'm just double checking that all my ballots are in.
I just wanted to say, Amanda, you did really good. Like
You guys both
Thank you. You did really
good.
good. You did really good for sure.
You did really good. I was like, wait, let me try your side.
I don't even like, that was a hard topic for me because I honestly believe the exact opposite. I want them all to wear body cameras all the time. I really do. So that was really, really hard for me.
I mean, that's how debate goes sometimes, right? You try to present the best arguments that you had. All right, I just have a couple more comments, and then I will reveal the uncertainty and tell you all who the judges have voted for, but the ballots are in, so I can give stuff away. All right. So Raquel, I think one of the things that I appreciate, and I know it's all new, we just learned, like, so I started you off with basic refutation, and like I think both of you did a nice job at kind of working your way line by line down the flow. But the stuff that we learned last week, that language of like when we learned language of refutation And so that's the stuff like non-unique, no link, no internal link, and no impact. Those tools are really helpful, especially when you don't really know what the answers are for a given like advantage or disadvantage. And like inevitably, like it's going to happen. Like you get 20 minutes to look stuff up, but 20 minutes is not enough time to do an exhaustive search. So part of debate is also learning to just use logic to point out flaws in your opponent's arguments. And so that language, those language of refutation strategies are really useful when you're not sure kind of like what to say, because it gives you a mechanism to put ink on the flow. And so I think you both did a nice job at getting some refutation, but I guess that's my challenge for y'all next time and in future weeks. Try to use some of those tools because it really like makes it easier. Like in any advantage or disadvantage, you can go to the uniqueness and be like, they say that this is what's happening. Nuh-uh, non-unique, this is what's actually happening. And like, even if it's not totally correct, it then forces your opponent to respond to those things. Same thing with no links, no internal links. Raquel, you did attempt to throw a turn argument there. I think on the second disadvantage is what I jotted down. I saw a turn argument, so I appreciate like making those points. Amanda, be careful when someone throws a turn out, it's actually claiming that the opposite is taking place. So make sure that you get that response in. You didn't label it as a turn, but the argument that you make on your disadvantage about like the opposite happening, like a 14%, I think it was 14% increase that that you talked about in
Yeah, that they're 14% more likely to be assaulted when they're wearing cameras.
Yeah, so that's actually a link turn on the advantage. And so you could go to the internal link where Raquel is like, look, like post plan, like things are going to be safer, and be like, well, so she says that in her internal link that post plan things are going to be safer. Actually, link turn, according to this in this study, we saw a 14% increase of assaults take place, which means body cameras are having the opposite effect that we want them to have, which means that we would be safer beyond it. And so why turns are so powerful is they have the ability to turn an advantage into a disadvantage or a disadvantage into an advantage. So when the negative turns an advantage, it simultaneously takes away the affirmative's net benefit, meaning that it now becomes a reason that they can get voted down, but also it proves a net detriment. So like if you're in a round where the affirmative has two advantages and they dismantle your disadvantages, but you are able to turn their advantage, you could then at the end of that debate be like, all right, look, this debate really comes down to two things, right? The advantages, advantage one and advantage two. However, my turn on advantage one actually outweighs any possible net benefits that they might garner on advantage two. In a debate like this, a turn on advantage one where there is no advantage two can just be a reason why the affirmative isn't net beneficial at all. And again, there's some nuance to it. Like she wasn't fully just claiming like it was both sides of the coin. She was claiming like better relationships between police and folks and police. So there might still have been some solvency for the AF, but nonetheless, it's why those arguments are so useful in the round. All right. Do either of you or anyone else in class have questions before I release the results and do a couple of announcements?
I had a question. I forgot to record mine.
Okay, it's fine. I recorded the whole thing. It's not going to be up till tomorrow, but when we're all in the same space, it's really easy for me to record the whole thing. So I will post the debate for you all on it. But also, it's like 2 weeks from now when you have to do the evaluation for this one. So you got plenty of time.
Oh, I just wanted to recording because I didn't flow mine like perfectly. That's why I was like,
all right, so that's going to be one of my announcements when we end class here in a couple of minutes. The assignment that will open up, and I need to change this just because I decided not to do 2 debates tonight. So there's going to be an assignment due tonight called the round 1 flow. When you're a debater, like I'm just going to give you credit for attempting to flow it. The hardest debate that you will ever flow are the debates that you are actually in, because you're going to make a lot of stuff up on the fly and it's not like you're sitting there flowing yourself. So for the debates that you're in, whatever you got, put it up and know that I'm basically going to give you credit for it. for the other folks, obviously, it's important that you do your best to try to follow the techniques and strategies of flowing. But no, for like the first few rounds, I'm going to pretty much give everybody that attempts it full credit. Like, I might take a little bit of pointage off, like if you're not using different color pens or blank paper, but honestly, like, you got to watch 4 or 5 debates before flowing really makes sense. So it's more of a mechanism for me to give you advice than it is for me to try to like punish or evaluate you. Like, I'll evaluate y'all more seriously when we get to round 2. But for right now, I just want folks to be trying it, and also like hitting me up if you're having trouble with the flowing or it's not making sense. Like, drop by in office hours, let me help you out and explain this, because like debate is easier when you figure out the flowing part of it. So don't rewatch this debate to reflow it. Turn in what you have. It's gonna be fine. You have done your work for the night.
I'm so glad you acknowledge that too, because I'm like trying to like when I say stuff, I'm like, oh my god, what did I just say? It's like so hard to like try. Like I try to like, there's a lot of blank spots on my paper. That's
And I mean, like, obviously, like I feel comfortable keeping up flowing in a class like this, where folks are new and the arguments are slow. But to this day, like, I go to tournaments. Like, I've got one not this weekend, but next weekend. It's going to be the state, like, regional championships from Northern California. I will watch debate rounds at that point that will have my hands cramping up and I'm going to be missing stuff. So it's the reality of this. Like, you work on it, you get better over time. And you, by the end of this class, it will be significantly easier. However, like, it's not something you're going to be perfect at when you're a beginner. And even by the end of class, like, you will be marginally better at it and it will be easier. But like, it takes a long time to get good at flowing. And even most debaters, once they finish their 4 years of competition, are like okay at it as opposed to being exceptional. So don't stress. It's a tool to help you all in the debates, which is why I want you to learn it, but it's not something that I'm ever super brutal about. All right.
You.
Any other questions that I can answer? All right. Go ahead.
Word on your.
How do you record?
Is it the blue video cam right here on the bottom?
So there's a button. So when you're in the debate, one of the things that I will do is I can make you a co-host or allow record. 1 second. I only did it for the people that were actually in the debate. Maybe they changed it. Like, a new version of Zoom just launched, and so maybe I just make people co-hosts now. So Peyton, I just gave you co-host abilities, and so down at the bottom there is like a little circular button that says record, and that's the one that you would normally click to record the debate that you're in.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. All right, cool. Y'all want to know how the ballots went on that? Let's take a look. All right, I got all 3. Let's see here. All right, so in this debate, we have a split decision. And so that means that 2 of the judges voted differently from the third one, which is usually a sign of a good close debate. So in this debate, it is a 2-0 or a 2-1 decision in favor of the negative team. So congratulations, Amanda, you won your first debate in the class. Typically what I will do is everyone get a chance to read these ballots. I'll look into it. Like, normally I wait for everyone to get a chance to go and then I release them. I'll see if there's an easy way for me to share them with you guys before that so that you can read your classmates' feedback and opinion on that. But let me research that for tomorrow before I share it, because normally it's something that I do at the end of it. Keep in mind that grades in this class are separate from like winning and losing debates. I always fill out my forms, and in a minute here when we close class, Amanda and Raquel, you guys will be able to log in and see your grades on debates night, as well as a bunch of written feedback for me as we get into it. So next week we will just be diving into another round of debates. But with that being said, I think what I'll do tonight is I'll cut class done a little bit early. But if folks want to stay and chat and ask questions, I can hang out for at least the next half hour. So if you want to talk about any of the concepts, we can do with that. Otherwise, don't forget to get your initial post in. This week, you are re-recording your first affirmative constructive speech. So the assignment all the way back on week number 1, you're going to redo that, but now you've got to redo it and have 2 advantages, which means that you have to have a lot better word economy to get the whole thing in. So it gives you a chance now with more experience to get a redo, fix the problems you had the first time, and get that second advantage that you wrote last week in there as well. So make sure that you give yourself a little bit of time to get that done for tomorrow night. In my other class, they were recording some stuff and folks are still having problems with the media tools on Canvas. You all have YouTube accounts now, so if I were you, I'd probably just do it as an unlisted YouTube account. But if you want to try it on media tools, obviously that is fine as well. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop the class recording tonight so it can start processing. But if anyone has questions, feel free to hang around. Otherwise, thanks for all the work, folks, and I will see everybody online and in class next week.